Ezekiel Marsh stood at the altar, his boots scuffed and his pride battered, next to a woman whose presence seemed to fill the small wooden church. Adelaide Quinn was the heaviest woman he'd ever seen, and he'd just traded his dignity for a single cow to save his failing ranch. But that night, when Adelaide locked the bedroom door, Ezekiel realized he'd stepped into a deal far more dangerous than he'd imagined. The drought had been relentless. 3 months without rain had turned Ezekiel's once thriving ranch into a wasteland of cracked earth and dying cattle. His herd of 100 had dwindled to nothing, each loss a blow to the legacy his father had built. The bank's foreclosure notice, still crumpled in his pocket, gave him 30 days before the land would be seized. Desperate, Ezekiel had accepted an offer from Cornelius Slade, a man whose gold-toothed grin and cold eyes haunted the territory. "Marry my daughter, Adelaide," Slade had said in the saloon's dim light. "She's not much to look at, but she's got a good heart. I'll give you the finest breeding cow in the territory." The deal was simple, a Holstein, healthy and valuable, for a marriage to a woman no one else wanted. Ezekiel had asked, "She's willing?" Slade's laugh was cruel. "She's 26 and unmarried. What choice does she have?" In the church, Ezekiel stole a glance at Adelaide. Her brown dress strained at the seams, her dark hair pulled back tightly. Her face was round, soft, but her eyes held something sharp, neither shame nor resignation, but something unreadable. The preacher's words droned as Ezekiel thought of the cow waiting in Slade's barn, a lifeline to rebuild his herd and save his land. "I do," Adelaide said firmly when prompted, her voice steady. Ezekiel's own "I do" caught in his throat, barely audible. The ring didn't fit her finger, but she forced it on, her gaze locking onto his with a flicker of amusement that unsettled him. The reception was tense, attended by a handful of Slade's hired hands and whispering neighbors. Ezekiel accepted congratulations that felt like pity. Adelaide gathered her belongings, a worn carpet bag and a leather-bound book she clutched tightly. On the wagon ride to his ranch, the silence was broken only by creaking wheels and distant coyotes. Ezekiel's mind was on the cow, the chance to start over, the price he'd paid. But when they reached his cabin and Adelaide strode to the bedroom with purpose, locking the door behind them, his stomach twisted. This was no ordinary wedding night. The candle's flicker cast shadows across Adelaide's face as she stood between Ezekiel and the door. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice low. She didn't answer, instead closing the curtains to block the moonlight. "Sit down," she commanded, her tone sharp. The submissive woman from the church was gone. Ezekiel's pulse quickened. "Adelaide, unlock the door." She opened her bag, pulling out a roll of papers. "My name isn't Adelaide. And I'm not Cornelius Slade's daughter." Ezekiel sank onto the bed, stunned. "What?" "My name is Catherine Walsh," she said, unrolling the papers. "Adelaide Quinn died of fever 2 years ago. Slade needed someone to play her part for this marriage." Ezekiel's mind reeled. "Why?" Catherine's voice turned cold. "Slade murdered my father 3 years ago for the water rights to Creek Canyon. Made it look like a riding accident. These papers, witness statements, bank records, prove he forged the transfer." She tapped the documents. "I'm here to destroy him." Ezekiel stood, legs unsteady. "Why marry me?" "Slade's paranoid," Catherine said. "He's always surrounded by guards, never alone. But tonight, thinking his problem daughter is married off, he's celebrating at Murphy's saloon. Vulnerable." She pulled a glass vial of clear liquid from her bag. "This is for him." Ezekiel's blood ran cold. "You're going to poison him." "Justice," she corrected, tucking the vial into her dress. "He killed my father, Adelaide, everyone who stood in his way. Tonight, he pays." Ezekiel moved toward the door. "I won't be part of this." Catherine's smile was chilling. "You already are. You're married to his daughter. When they find his body, who do you think they'll suspect?" Everyone knows how desperate you are. The trap was perfect. Her amusement at the ceremony made sense, she'd been framing him. But Catherine didn't know Ezekiel had his own secrets, and her plan had a flaw she'd never see coming. As Catherine checked the vial, Ezekiel spoke calmly. "You're making a mistake." She paused, key in hand. "The only mistake was thinking you'd understand. Stay here. Tell them your wife went to visit her father." "Catherine, that vial isn't poison." She froze. "It's colored water with salt," Ezekiel continued, sitting back on the bed. "The medicine man in Tombstone works for me. Has for 6 months, ever since I started tracking everyone who wants Slade dead." Catherine stared at the vial, her plan unraveling. "You've been watching me. You're not the only one Slade ruined," Ezekiel said. "That cow he gave me. It was mine before the drought. Slade bought my debt, foreclosed early, and stole my cattle. I've been planning to take him down, but not with murder. I want him to lose everything, land, cattle, reputation, before he dies broken." Catherine clutched the useless vial. "My evidence is real." "I know," Ezekiel said. "I've been gathering my own for months. Your father's murder is one of many. The territorial marshal arrives tomorrow with federal warrants." Catherine's voice trembled. "You used me." "We used each other," Ezekiel countered, unlocking the door. "My plan doesn't end with us hanging." But the thunder of approaching horses stopped them cold. Catherine whispered, "They're coming for us." Ezekiel recognized Slade's men, armed and riding hard. Someone had betrayed them. "The preacher," Ezekiel muttered. "Slade owns him." Catherine grabbed his arm. "What do we do?" "Root cellar, under the kitchen floorboards," Ezekiel said, grabbing his rifle. "Hide with the evidence. Don't come out until morning." "And you?" "I'm giving them what they came for." As Catherine slipped toward the kitchen, Ezekiel faced the front window. Slade dismounted in the yard, torch high, flanked by 5 armed men and the corrupt territorial marshal, Warren. "Marsh!" Slade shouted. "I know what you're planning. Come out, or we'll burn you out." Ezekiel stepped onto the porch, rifle lowered. "Evening, Cornelius. Congratulations on the wedding." Slade sneered. "That cow isn't my daughter." "Where's Catherine Walsh?" "My wife Adelaide is asleep," Ezekiel lied. Warren stepped forward. "We know Catherine killed the real Adelaide and planned to murder Slade. You're helping her." The betrayal hit hard. Warren wasn't coming to arrest Slade, he was on his payroll. Ezekiel's evidence, witnesses, and plans had been leaked. "You're all his," Ezekiel said quietly. Slade laughed. "I've owned this territory for 20 years. But he'd underestimated Ezekiel, just as he had Catherine's father. Ezekiel raised his rifle, aiming not at Slade but at the torch. "You assumed I'd fight fair," he said, firing. The torch exploded, oil igniting Slade's shirt. In the chaos, Ezekiel dove behind the water trough. New hooves thundered, federal deputies, led by the real Marshal Hayes. "Drop your weapons," Hayes commanded. Catherine emerged, lantern in hand, holding her evidence. She hadn't hidden, she'd signaled the feds from the kitchen. "I have proof of Slade's crimes," she called. Hayes announced, "Catherine Walsh has been working with us for 3 months. Every bribe, every threat, documented." Slade's men surrendered. Warren reached for his gun, but Ezekiel shot his hand, disarming him. Hayes arrested Slade and Warren for murder, fraud, and corruption. As they were led away, Ezekiel and Catherine stood in the yard. The ranch was still failing, the drought ongoing, their marriage a lie. But Slade was finished. "What now?" Ezekiel asked. Catherine smiled, tears in her eyes. "Adelaide was my sister. She died protecting people from Slade. Now we rebuild, together, for her. Ezekiel looked at the woman he'd married for a cow and found something greater. Sometimes, the greatest treasures come from the darkest deals.